Well, we've arrived finally at the last section of our time together in this course, and you'll find that the stuff that we cover this week, where there's a little bit less information to work through, intentionally shortened things in order to give you a bit of extra time so that you can begin to review for the final exam. If you check the instructor's announcements at the top of the course website, you'll find a few more details posted there about the exam that will be helpful to you in terms of where to focus your study. And you'll also find some information there about how exactly the exam will take place. It'll be hosted through the course website, and you'll find some more information about that on the announcement. There's a number of different candidates for the title of most important event in early church history. I think we've covered a lot of those candidates. Possible examples might include the destruction of the Jerusalem temple, perhaps the Diocletian persecution, or the conversion of Constantine maybe. It could point to the articulation of Christological orthodoxy at the councils of Nicaea, Constantinople, and Chalcedon. Maybe the fall of the Western Roman Empire, and there might be others, but on any such list, in my opinion, I think the birth of Islam and the subsequent conflict coming out of Arabia has to be very near the top of things that impact upon the church and its shape in its first 600 or so years. This lecture is not a lecture about the theological beliefs of Islam. That would be a subject for a world religions course. What we're going to cover in this lecture, admittedly somewhat briefly, is something about the rapid transition that saw Islam go from a small tribal faction in the Arabian Peninsula to a vast religious tradition and really empire that would come to occupy a lot of the same lands that were to that point home to about 50% of the world's Christians, and how that all happened in the space of less than 100 years. In keeping with the purpose of the course, this isn't done for the sake of understanding Islamic history, but for the purposes of our understanding of Christian history. In the current climate, of course, with everything that we hear about in the news and in our communities, it can be difficult and it's sensitive to talk about this topic, perhaps, and I get that and I'm alert to that. I'd like to make clear that in rehearsing this history, it's not in the least bit intended to be polemical or politically or ideologically motivated. I do a great deal, as I've mentioned, of my work in interfaith dialogue, and I work very closely with Muslims in our city and joint work in social justice and all sorts of things, and have a great deal of respect for Islam and for Muslim people. In our pasts, both Islam and Christianity, we've had considerable violence and hostility between us at times. But I believe that Christians and Muslims can learn from one another and are called to be at peace with one another. Nevertheless, what we're going to talk about today is a part of the story, and I think it's important for us to be aware of it. And so we conclude our course by talking about this new development and the way that it would too also shape forever Christianity's self-understanding and its place in the world.